In the post-war period, there was a dramatic decline in income inequality in the UK. However, from the early 1980s, this went into reverse, with a sharp rise during the Thatcher years. The UK has now one of the highest levels of inequality in the developed world, and in recent years, the UK has also experienced growing inequality in terms of wealth, geography, and even age. We will look at why this is occurring and what, if anything, can be done about it. Since 2007, we can see a growing gap between average households and the poorest 10%, an inequality that is magnified by a decline in real income of the poorest 10%. When household income is $15,000, a 13% drop is nearly impossible to deal with. Whilst the poorest see falling incomes, the biggest growth in income is coming from the top 1% of earners. It is the top 1% who have done the best since the financial crisis. This graph shows a clear rise in child and adult poverty, whilst pensioner poverty has almost halved. What explains this? A significant cause was the austerity of the 2010s, which contributed to low productivity, low economic growth, and real cuts in benefits, and falling real pay, especially for the unskilled and public sector workers. The improvement in pension poverty reflects more generous pension benefits, but there has not been the same political willingness to protect real pay or working age benefits. However, income disparity is only part of the issue. For young people, the high cost of living and housing is a double whammy. The UK wealth gap is even more extreme, with the richest 1% owning wealth of 3.6 million, compared to the poorest 10% having wealth of just 12,000. Soaring house prices have created a passive surge in wealth for homeowners. The gap in wealth between the top 10% and average family has increased from 900,000 in 2006 to 1.2 million in 2020. This is partly due to ever-rising house prices, pushing prices to record income multiples. The broken housing market with severe shortages is exacerbating inequality between property owners and renters. Since 2006, the top 20% has seen their wealth rise 37%, whilst the bottom 40% have seen no change. In a recent Financial Times article, a professor at LSE admitted he gained more through wealth gained by rising house prices than he ever earned from his salary in his whole career. The rise in house prices is also causing an intergenerational divide, with homeowners increasingly the preserve of the older generation or those lucky enough to inherit from a bank of mum and dad. The ratio of wealth owned by the over 65s has risen from 42% in 2006 to 51% in 2019, just 13 years later. Though when discussing pensioners, it is also important to bear in mind they are not a homogeneous group. There is wide inequality amongst the over 65s themselves. But a key shift has definitely occurred. For the first time in living memory, the younger generation face lower living standards than their parents. It is not just unaffordable housing, but student loans, transport costs, and higher tax. Graduates are facing a marginal tax rate of over 50%, making it even harder to save for deposits which have outstripped wages. The problem is not just inequality. The cost of living makes labour markets more inflexible, forces people to move out of London and the south, contributes to labour shortages, and affects economic growth. In past decades, the UK has become better at growing wealth rather than income. Since 1949, the ratio of wealth to income in the UK has soared. But this increased wealth is not spurring economic growth. Whilst house prices have soared, productivity and economic growth have flatlined. Such levels of inequality also threaten social cohesion, with many feeling left behind, unable to afford a decent living standard, even with a supposedly well-paying job. But as the Brexit debate revealed, the UK has another layer of inequality by region. A report by Eurostat claimed the UK had the richest region in Northern Europe, London, but also 9 out of the 10 poorest regions. Now this is a bit dated, and you could argue with their methodology, but whether it is strictly true or not, it is clear the UK has one of the highest levels of regional inequality in the developed world. Disposable income is more than 50% higher in London than the North East. If you use gross value added, it gives a similar result. Yet it is London's wealth which has attracted most of the infrastructure investment, leaving northern regions outside Manchester struggling to attract peanuts. The government's much vaunted levelling up schemes are struggling to be more than a drop in the ocean. The think tank IPPR report a decline of £413 per capita council funding will be replaced by just £32 of levelling up funds. This regional inequality is also reflected in the quality of life and healthcare. Here we can see a variation in male healthy life expectancy from 51 years in Blackpool to 71 years in Richmond upon Thames. This healthy life expectancy is the amount of time people can live whilst being able to work, and it raises important issues for raising the retirement age when so many people are entering long-term sickness before the official retirement age. Now, some of these trends in inequality are global and are reflected in other countries, highlighted in work by, say, Thomas Piketty. In the US, there has been an increased concentration of wealth in the top 1%. Jobs and wealth increasingly benefit metropolitan cities, with rural and former industrial bases being left behind. The world is seeing rapid development in technology, which is changing economic patterns, but the proceeds of technology and globalization are not being equally shared. There is no easy solution. The UK does have a reasonably progressive income tax system, but wealth goes largely untaxed. The minimum wage has been of great help, but can only do so much. Other solutions need to involve increasing the supply of affordable homes, global tax cooperation to prevent tax avoidance. It also requires meaningful investment in deprived regions with a devolution of decision making. And the topic I will look at in the future, a universal basic income from the proceeds of tech and energy monopolies. The whole issue of inequality is also more problematic because of the UK's relative economic decline and falling growth rate, which you can learn more about in this video here.